last month. We're excited to have our speakers, from last month join us again. Excited to have you all join us. Before we start, we want to encourage you to push this information out to anybody who has ever even talked to you about the idea of writing anything, a blog, a book, whatever it is, all people that you think have a book in them, because we truly believe everyone has a book in them. And so please, share the link, spread the word so that we can have a full house here today. Again, my name is Kemi Akinditire. I am the global lead for the EPR Women's Professional Network. And again, excited to just host this session today, along with my team behind the scenes. I'm gonna go very quickly because today we actually have a pretty detailed experience where we might be here for a little bit longer than usual. We'll probably go up until maybe 90 minutes if you have lots of questions, but we'll just go ahead. So I'll just say, hey, sit back, relax, and enjoy the experience. As you join us, I see that we have a few people already joining us. As you join us, if you can just tell us where you're joining in from, location, if this is your first time. I think I might see a first timer in the room. So just tell us who you are in chat and say hi. Hey, hi from London, UK. We always have London represented in the room, right? Who else is here? I am super excited. Hey, hi to our speakers. So let's just say hi to each other as people trickle in. Again, EPR Women's Professional Network is a platform where today's Christian professional woman is equipped with tools, resources, and to help her deploy her gifts and her talents in the marketplace. We do this through webinars, we do this through various sessions at conferences. We have many resources and tools to actually help empower women to achieve their best in their professional and personal lives. So this is just one of the many ways that we do this. So again, really excited to have you here. Before we go into the details and we start getting into the weeds, because today we are going to be getting into the weeds. If you can just make sure that you're ready, make sure you grab a notepad. Very important today. It's going to be important for you to have your pen and your notepad or even a whiteboard if you have it. Today we're going to be practicing. We're not just going to be talking about this. We're going to be practicing and actually having some live hands-on experience practicing what we are going to learn. And I just want to encourage you to just, again, sit back, relax, and, post questions if you have it along the way, and we'll be happy to take them towards the end. Today's format is going to be slightly different from what we had last month. Again, last month we had an interactive Q&A session, but by popular demand, we're asked for something more meaty and, a little bit more structured and practical. And so today, you're going to hear less of Kemi's voice. You're going to hear more of, our speakers, Ogechi and Lasude. And I'm going to do a quick intro again of our speakers for those who may have not been here last month. Ogechi Ucheatu, who is, she was here last month, and she is a Nigerian American author. And she's an inspirational speaker. She's a podcast host. Hopefully you get to check out her podcast. And she is a purpose-driven woman. She has a passion for helping others. She's a life coach. She loves coaching young adults, encouraging women to achieve their highest potential. She's also a wife, mother of 3, and a consulting professional in the HR and IT transformation world. Today she's published, of course, multiple books. She loves serving in her community, and specifically she is on the editorial board for her church. And she loves to travel and blog and do lots of fun things. And if you really want to learn more about her, you need to check her out on Instagram. She's always sharing a lot of fun stuff about her life, her lifestyle, and everything. And I really enjoy kind of just learning from her experiences. So welcome again, Ogechi.
Thank you.
As I introduce her today, who is, she's also a Nigerian American author, 2 books. She has a Bible journal, and a novel, which we just got launched, I guess, late last year. Healthcare professional, and she's a lover of Christ, mother of two princesses, and they're princesses indeed, a wife, an advocate for women's health, particularly mental health. I believe this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. She probably has a lot to say about mental health this month. And she's also a blogger. She has a wonderful blog. If you check Lavender Me, you'll have an opportunity to learn from her. She writes really inspirational pieces and blogs. So check her out. So again, today I just want to invite our speakers to just come and share some deeper thoughts, some deeper details around this writing journey. I know I think we have enough people to run a quick poll. Maybe I'll wait for a little bit later, just so that we have a response. So we'll skip that for now. If we have time, we'll go back to our quick poll. But for now, I'm going to actually hand over to our first speaker, Latunde, who will be taking us through the first portion of this. And so very quickly, I'll hand over to you, Latunde. Just let me know how you want me to, and I'll be ready to go.
Thank you very much, Sister Kemi. You can go ahead and share the slide. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to come again, return a second month to share about this amazing calling. I call it a calling. To be an author is a calling. As I said last month, for anyone who wasn't here, I believe that everyone has been given that opportunity, has been given that seed to write something, and you're like, well, no, I don't like writing. There's so many areas of life that you can write about. So, and I know that a lot of us who are here have that desire to become authors. So without further delay, I wanted to just talk about the writing process. And I'm so excited to be on this seminar with my amazing sister, Ogechi. Thank you so much.
Same here.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so without further delay, the writing process, what is that about? From the time that you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I think I should write about this, to actually process publishing a book takes a whole lot in the middle. And by no means am I an expert, but I thank God for giving me the opportunity to have been able to do it twice and to have enjoyed the process. And it wasn't always a smooth process, but at least I was like, okay, God, thank you for giving me this grace to do it. And having learned what I learned, I look forward to doing more of it. Okay, so everyone, I'm sure like at some point in time, you're like, I should write about this. And if you feel like I should write about this, and I think last month there was a quote that if you desire to read a book that has not been written, then you should write that book, right? I think it was like Toni Morrison and I'm paraphrasing. She said something to that effect. So what does that writing process look like? You're like, okay, I think I have a title, or I think I have a genre, or I think I want to write this book for this generation or for this time frame. So it is important, again, to have a title. But I always tell people, don't beat yourself up if you don't have an actual, if you don't have a title that you're like, okay, this is it, right? Don't beat yourself up. If you need to have 20 titles or however many titles, and Sister Gitch is going to go more into detail about this. And if you don't have an actual title, but you just have an idea, okay, this book, I'm supposed to write a book about focusing on helping singles to live the best of their lives, or I want to write for teenagers. So again, you're already defining the genre, right? You're like, okay, I think I want to write to teen adults, but is it a movie? Is it a novel? Is it a fiction? Is it non-fiction? Is it I want to write autobiography about my life, because I've gone through so many things in life, and I think God has brought me out, and I want to encourage people. So understanding what that genre is, again, there are so many. I believe there are about up to 100 and something genres of books, but the most popular ones are around 35, fiction, non-fiction. But then under non-fiction, you have like memoirs, autobiographies, you have I forgot the other ones, but there are so many of them. But most books are usually between like that, fiction and fiction. What is fiction? basically it's like you're making up the story, right? It's something that is not attached to any living person. You're just kind of making up that story, and you're taking people on that journey. So there are different kinds of fiction. There is fantasy, thrillers, drama, romance, which is where I kind of delved into. So again, it's very important to understand the genre that you're writing for, and the reason for that is the way that you write in each of those different genre is different. It's quite different. So the way that you encourage, if you're writing a self-help book, for example, a non-fiction self-help book, the way that you speak to your audience or to your readers is different from if you're writing a novel and you're writing a romance novel that you're writing about this fictional characters. So again, it's important to understand the genre that you're writing in to be able to create that outline and create the writing process. Okay, then the third thing I want to talk about is the time frame. So some people take forever to write a book, and that's fine. And some people are like, I don't have forever. I need to like have that. I want to be able to publish this book in the next 6 months or in the next 1 year. So you have your time frame, right? And one of the ways that you do that is literally, again, as we talked about last month, but I just do a refresher here, is to set that time management, right? So every single day or every single week or every single month, this is how much time I'm going to allocate to writing about this idea that I've been given, okay, or this title or this genre that I want to write into. And just before I just remember now, I want to encourage people, like, once you identify the genre that you want to write in, you get as many books as you can, because writing a book, there's nothing new about writing a book, right? But the idea that you want to put out there is quite new. But in terms of formatting, so this is my book here that I'm putting up here. So in terms of formatting this book from writing it on a computer to getting it here, I actually got so many other books that were similar to what I wanted, and I kind of looked at their format and I'm like, okay, this is what I want my book to look like. In a romance genre, believe you me, it's very different. A book in a romance genre is different from a book in a self-help genre. So again, I kind of took that book, those many romance book, and said, oh, this is what I want my book to look like, and so kind of model it after that. So read in whatever genre that you want to write into. Borrow books, buy books, read authors, read the way that they write, the flow of dialogue, the writing style. That would also help you to get your writing going. Okay, so the next slide, sister Kemi. And just to recap, I hope everyone understood that, the idea that you have your title, you have the genre, identify the genre and the time frame that you want to set to finish from scratch, from start to finish, from the idea
Yes.
to actually having the book in your hand. Like, what's your time frame?
Yes, and to add to that time frame, Sister Latunde, you mentioned 6 months, 12 months, and I would go a step further to break that time into different chunks, right? So if you say I want to publish my book in 6 months, say starting June to November, and I'll go live in December, you also break it down into writing time, editing time. So I'll say I'm working on a current project, I say I'm giving myself 3 months to write. Because again, if I just go on and on, it might take forever because I'm laid back, but I'm like very project driven. So I'm like, I'm going to write for 3 months and I'm going to dedicate 1 month to editing. And after I edit, I'm going to dedicate another 1 month to finalizing the cover and format. And then the last, I guess, 1 month and a half before I go live, we're going to walk about, I call it the PPM, publishing, printing, marketing. So that once you have gone live, you have all the stuff you're going to be posting in different social media, creating buzz, creating content, you have already booked up, book signing events with churches or places you want to go and market it. So taking a step back and not just saying, I want to publish in 1 month to 12 months or six months, which is good, but you also have to break them in chunks. And again, we're human, right? If you don't meet the timeline, don't
It's
beat
okay.
yourself up. But I think it's just having some structure around it to hold yourself accountable, or tell a friend I'm trying to publish in 6 months, to help to hold me accountable. So I wanted to add that to the time frame.
Thank you so much, sis. That's very, very important. Yes, breaking down the time frame. So moving on to the second point, which is formatting a manuscript. There are so many. I'm not very tech savvy. I'll put that out there now. I'm not very tech savvy in the sense that I don't know a lot of the apps out there, or like the software programs to, like, the fancy ones to write a book. But I wrote my manuscript on Microsoft Word document, and for me, it was the best. Some people write on Google Docs. Microsoft Word, especially the most recent one, I believe I have the Office 365 suite, and I have the most recent Microsoft Word on it. But even if you don't have the most recent one, Microsoft provides like the basic, the regular page 8.5 by 11. You're able to like double space. You're able to do all this function on Microsoft Word. You're able to save your Word into a PDF program a PDF file that you can email to yourself and edit later. You can edit on your phone and whatnot. So I used Microsoft Word document to really type out all my manuscript, and it doesn't have any limit. Like, you can type as many pages as you want to type on it. So that's the one that I use, and I always recommend that. I'm pretty sure there are other writing platforms out there that are more fancy, and you probably have to pay for it, but Microsoft is free if you already have it on your computer. And Google Docs, one of the reasons I also use Google Docs at some point in time, especially when I was interacting with my editor, because it was easier for us to kind of go back and forth to edit right on the spot there. So I used that Google Docs. It was quite flexible, like someone said on the format on the chat. So yes, those are the two that I recommend. Like, because again, when you're self-publishing, there's a lot of cost that kind of goes along as you're at different stages, and one of the ways to minimize the cost was using this free document, Google document and Microsoft Word. If you have any questions, please let me know. So I can go in depth, I guess maybe at another time, or if you can reach out to me later, and I can go in depth with the process of actually formatting your manuscript in Microsoft Word. It goes from getting the right page, the right format, all that. There's a lot that goes on the back, but again, you can talk to me personally, and I can show you how to do that. So can I get to the next slide? I'm trying to keep to time because already 12:17, and I know we still have a lot more. So editing is an interesting phase, like sister Ogechi said earlier. So there's the writing part. You write, you're like, okay, I've done so much writing and I think I'm good to go. No, you're not good to go, especially if you're writing a novel or like a book that has a lot of words that is very dense. Editing is as important, if not more important, to your book than actually writing the manuscript. And there are different types of editing. So there's proofreading, there's copy editing, there's line editing, there's developmental editing. Proof editing basically is just, you've done all the work, you've written everything, and you now need someone to like just make sure that your book looks like it's supposed to look like when it's actually printed and it's published. At this stage, you can't be saying, oh, the font, I don't like the font in page 22. No. That one should have been cut at either developmental or like line or the other stages of editing. So proofreading is just saying, okay, this is what I want to present to the world, and I just need an extra set of eyes to look at it and say, oh, okay, this looks like a book that I'm proud to put out there. And let me just say something. And this blew my mind when I heard this. It actually not only blew my mind, but it put me at ease because I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I remember when I was going to be editing my novel, particularly, I wanted every single word to look right, every single page to look like it was supposed to look. I mean, and I'm not saying you shouldn't work to that level, but I think it was a professional, well-known author that said this, that even if, imagine that your work, your project, your book has about 60,000 words in it, and you only have 1%, your work is 99%, because no one is going to get 100% perfect editing work. So imagine that you have 60,000 words in your book and 99% accurate, it's perfect, and you have that 1% error. 1% of 60,000 words, who can tell me how many words is that? Can you say it in the chat for our mathematicians who are in our midst? If you have 1% of 60,000 words, what's that? 1% of 60,000, that's like 600. So imagine that. Thank you very much, Adesola. Thank you, Oge. Imagine that you have 600 words in your book that are still not accurate. And I'm not saying that to say, oh my God, you should feel bad, but that's just the way that editing works sometimes. So even, and your editors, when you work with them, they're going to tell you that we're going to try our best, but even at that, there's going to be some grammar, there's going to be some mistakes here and there. As long as you get your main story, your main information out to people, that's what really matters. Again, so focus on excellence, not perfection. So that's proof editing. Copy editing is basically text editing. So there are different editors for all these phases, right? Some editors might choose to do everything for you, but then again, know that each phase also costs funds. And a copy editing or text editing is basically the editor going through your manuscript and checking the grammars and making sure that punctuations are accurate, your commas, your semicolons are put in the right place and whatnot. Line editing basically talks about them looking at the sentence structure and saying line by line, does this make sense? What this sentence is saying, does it make sense? Is it accurate? Is it portraying? Is it portraying the information that you're intending for it to portray? And then, of course, developmental editing is essentially looking at the entire picture together and saying, okay, does this make sense? Does the book, the cover, the design, the story, the characters, are they well developed and all that? So those are the stages of editing. Again, to briefly talk about the cost of editing, he can go from the cheapest I've seen when editing a novel was 2 cents per word. And it sounds like, oh, that's not that much. But again, if you're writing a novel that has 45,000 words or more, imagine 2 cents times 45,000 words, so that it can accrue. Some people charge more than that. I've had someone charge 7 cents per word. Again, the more well-known an editor is, the higher their cost of editing could be. So editing is a lot of work, and it takes a really good chunk of your budget. Again, you want to, so as you're writing as well, as a writer, I think somebody did put down there that Grammarly is a good software to use. I agree. I wish I used Grammarly when I was writing my novel, because I didn't use it. I was right after, and I should have. So Grammarly is a good software to also use in your editing process. But I believe that it's important to have not only just the software, but an actual person who reads your book. And I can stress the importance of having a great editor, not just a good editor, a great editor, someone who believes in your work, someone who believes and shares that vision with, like you tell them, oh, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and they say, yes, I get it, and they're able to like come alongside you, not just to cajole you, but to be able to say, okay, Latunde, what this sentence makes no sense, this entire chapter makes no sense, this entire session is just dragging down your story. You need that person to be able to say, oh my God, yes, I love this chapter, oh my goodness, we should add more to it. So editors are very, very important. The way that I found my editor, I wanted So I was at the time that I was going to start my editing work, I didn't have a job. Then I said, I cannot afford 2 cents. I can't afford 5 cents or 7 cents per word. So one of the ways that I found an editor was to reach out to universities in my area. I actually reached out to Bowie State, and I reached out to their English department, and I said, do they have any master's degree, master's level or PhD level students who are going into the line of editing? And I was surprised. I actually got quite good feedback, and that was how I was able to find one of my editors. Wonderful, wonderful, amazing guy. You can find editors from Fiverr. Fiverr has everything. You can find editors from Fiverr. I didn't use Fiverr only because I just wanted to have that personal relationship. Like me and my editors, we would meet at least once a month. And again, this project, my novel, spanned about 4 years in total. Up until the day that I published, he was still there. So that was a very good use of my fund, and I really really enjoyed that relationship with my editor. So again, you can use Fiverr. You can reach out to like universities like I did. It saved me a ton of money, believe you me. All right, so let's move on to the next slide for the sake of time.
To add to the developmental editing, yes, I would say if you are comfortable, constructive feedback, solicit that early before you get to proofreading in terms of like which one will go first. I would say go first for the developmental editing, taking that content because it'll help you refine the book. Like, the software Grammarly, before the editor sees it. I totally agree that you should get like a physical person to look at it line by line, but those are some cost-saving mechanisms. So you get the developmental feedback, you incorporate it, you use Grammarly, then you can start incurring the cost of the copy editing and the final proof editing. So just be open to the feedback early so that you're not like, oh, I'm done writing, I finished, it's 3 months, and then they're like, no, you have to start rewriting again. So that's just some tips.
Yes. There. Yes, I completely agree. Thank you, sis, for bringing that up. Okay, so say now you've written all this amazing manuscript. You've edited, you've developmentally edited your work, and everything is looking amazing. So now we're going to move to that process of publishing, right? I want to start to publish. Again, I went through a self-publishing route because traditional publishings was just a lot. Okay, so, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. So ISBN is called the International Standard Book Number. Every single book that you see on in a bookstore must have this ISBN. And this is how they identify when you go to purchase a book. This is how one of the ways that they identify the book. There's a number that is attached to that work, that project. And so like if the book was to be available internationally or wherever, this is how they would track your book. Now, Amazon, this is for every published book. Amazon offers you a free ISBN number. Like you don't have to worry about it. But I would say if Amazon offers you that and you accept the free ISBN, and Sister Oge, please feel free to come in here as well. You're not, as at the time that I was going to publish, if I accepted that free Amazon ISBN, I wouldn't be able to publish my book on another platform. So Amazon owns the publishing right for that book, essentially, because they're giving you the free ISBN.
Correct.
Now, for my novel, because I still believe, and I'm speaking this out into the universe, that this book is going to go places and is going to become a movie. And so I wanted to own the rights to my book. So I decided I wanted my book to also be able to be published anywhere, not just on Amazon. So I decided to get my own ISBN. ISBN, you can get it from Bowker, I believe that's how I say it. And it's my identifiers. This is actually... Sister Kim, if you can fix this later, myidentifiers.com, you would be able to pay for your own ISBN. I encourage people they do have bundle prices, or like if you get a single one, I believe a single one's about $175. And a bundle one, if you got like 10 ISBNs, which is what I got, is $375 for those 10 ISBNs. And what you can do, and it's 10 different numbers that you can attach to your different projects. Okay. And then the other thing about ISBN that I wanted to share is that if you're publishing your book, say you're publishing on different formats, that's the word. So if you're doing hard copy or like soft copies, you would have to attach different ISBNs to them. So, and that's why I encourage people to get the bundle, the 10 ISBNs at a time. You can get more. I think you can get like 1,000 ISBNs. Matter of fact, this is how publishing houses also do it. They get this bundle ISBNs and then distribute them to authors who are publishing under them. So you can get like, the bundle one and attach each ISBN. So if you're publishing a hard copy, you attach an ISBN to it. If you're publishing e version, Kindle, you don't have to have an ISBN attached to your Kindle work. Correct me again, sister. Okay, if I'm wrong, but that was my understanding, that I didn't have to attach an ISBN to a Kindle version.
For ebooks, no, it's optional.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's optional.
Kindle
Yes.
ebooks,
Yes. Yes. So I encourage people to get your ISBN. It sounds like it's a lot of money upfront, but you have your creative authority over your work, as opposed to Amazon taking it and then you can't publish on other platforms. One of the things that I wanted to also add here is creating a book cover. I'm sorry. Let me go back to traditional publishing versus. So next slide, Sister Kemi. I hope I'm not. I know I'm kind of rushing, but at the same time, I'm trying to be conscious of time. So please feel free to ask any questions if you have them on the chat. So traditional versus self-publishing. Again, I self-published because it was just easier for me to maintain that authority over every process of my publishing journey. Publishing houses, there are a few main ones that are very popular. Penguin, Maclean, and the other works. And then there's the self-publishing, which I call indie authors, or like independent authors, and then there is the hybrid. So with traditional publishing, you kind of give over your creative control to the publishing houses. You guys have to talk about royalties. Do you want royalties upfront? Do you want some advance payment upfront versus how much you want in advance payment versus how much you want in your royalties once they start selling your books. Of course, there are fees you have to discuss with an agent. You actually don't go to the traditional houses yourself. You go to an agent who then goes to who takes your manuscript and presents it to the traditional publishing houses. And a lot of manuscripts get tossed in the trash. And it's not because they want to, it's just they get a lot. They get a lot of this manuscript. A lot of people are out there writing that they're not able to go through, and they're not able to publish. So if you want to go through traditional publishing, it's very possible. But I want to, and I'm not trying to discourage you, but the reality is there's a lot of rejections that happens. But if you're resilient and you want to still get published traditionally, please keep going for it and whatnot. But just be aware that, there's potential for rejections. There's an agent process, and that agent gets paid. You have to pay that agent. And then, you discuss your royalties versus your advances and the works. As an indie or independent publisher, really, it's just identifying what platform you want to use to publish your book. Once you've done the editing, you've gotten your ISBN, you've written the idea down, you have a manuscript. It's really just deciding, okay, which platform do I want to publish through? Ingram Spark, Amazon hard book cover, Kindle version, So, but you have your creative control. You're like, I'm the one driving this bus. You decide how you want your book cover to be. you decide, okay, what your royalty is going to be. And Sister Oge is going to discuss that later in detail. So again, there are pros and cons to either self-publishing, indie author, or traditional publishing. And then they're starting to be a hybrid of these two. So you're like, I don't want to go through that rejection process of traditional publishers, publishing houses, and I don't want to self-publish. They're kind of a hybrid, and I'm going to share a chart later to help everyone understand better. Okay, so one thing I didn't add to this slide, and I'm sorry, I just thought about it, was book cover. The importance of book covers, right? So have you picked up a book and you're like, what is this? Like, who did this artwork on this book? Like, it's not even looking you can barely read the words on the cover. Book covers are so important. There's a popular saying that says, don't judge a book by its cover. But the honest truth is, a lot of us judge a book by its cover, right? A lot of us judge a book by its cover. So it is very important to have a book cover that tells the story of your book, right? That kind of draws the reader, the potential reader in, and say, oh, let me see what this is about, right? So again, I designed my own book cover myself on Canva. Canva is such a great tool for graphic designers. So if you know how to kind of work your way around design, Canva is a great tool. You can also pay someone. There are graphic designers out there who do great book covers, but again, know that that's an additional cost that you have to add to your expenses. And it is important, very, very important, to understand the concept of colors in your book cover. Are you talking about a happy story? Learn about colors that relate to happiness, to sunshine, are you talking about a romance novel? Okay, a romance novel, you don't want to have the girl all covered up and she's unless your book is about a nun that is falling in love, then yeah, have a but my point is that your book cover has to relate to the story that you're kind of trying to tell, and color plays an important part in your book. You want it to be bright, and then there's also the idea of, do I want my picture, or do I want abstract? Do I want pictures of models and those stuff? So again, we can always talk about this more in depth, but just know that color plays an important concept in your book cover. Sister, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just to add to the cover, because I had a lot of pain with my third book, finding good cover, and the cost implication as well. So I would advise maybe try to sketch out what you want, or go through different iteration before you go to design. Like Sister Latente said, am I going to use a picture? If it's a picture, is that picture copyrighted? Like with my cookbook, I ended up using a photo that I took from previous vlogs that was like high def, and then just make sure you have a budget for cover and be ready for multiple iteration. It took me like a month to decide on the cover. Even the book I'm currently writing, I'm like, I can't seem to decide. I put it out there, but I know it's going to go through multiple iteration and probably will cost money. So just on the front end, when you're thinking through, and we'll go through the exercise, what your book is about. Salante talked about colors, title. Just make sure you maybe sketch it out and toss the idea by 1 to 2 people and say, what do you think about it, before you actually start paying for someone to start designing it. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I'm going to use my own story as an example for my novel. And if you're like following me, or if you know me on Facebook, when I was close to publishing it, I had a yellow cover with a girl, all kind of bowed down. And when I saw the picture, I remember when I saw that picture on my designing platform, I was like, oh, this kind of talks about my character a little bit. But I didn't like the yellow background. Like, it was like, oh, he's too happy. And my story is not such a happy story. Yellow was just too very bright. So I said, okay, you know what? No, let me think about this. So you're absolutely right, sis, that don't feel like you have to be stuck with one cover. kind of, you know, and before you do talk with, if you're going to pay someone, because it takes a lot of, it's a lot of money as well, you know, like you said, sketch it out and say, what is, does this reflect, you know, talk to one or two people. This is what, who know about the story. This is what my story is, or this is what I'm trying to explain to people or to teach people. Does this cover flow with it? And if it's not, if it feels like it's not the right one, even after you've published, please, by all means, know that it's a learning process. And the next one will get it right, right? Awesome. Okay, next one. Oh my God, my time is well spent. Oh, the next slide, please. So the marketing strategies. Honestly, I need lesson in this as well. If y'all know how to market and get it all over the world, please feel free to share with us as well. But what has worked for me so far is social media, friends and families, and friends of my friends' families, and families of my friends. Um, um, Essentially reaching out to like brick and mortar stores, and then also just face to face. When I go places, I try to have several copies of my book on me and just be like, hey, I published a book, you know. And let me backtrack to social media. um I wasn't a very social media enthusiast when I was writing, but as I continued the journey, I realized that it's become such an effective marketing strategy. And if you're out there, you're like, I don't want to be on social media. You don't have to be really, but your work, your book is a business, is your business. You don't have to put yourself out there personally, but put your work out there, right? And you'll be so surprised. One of the things that I've used to get people from all over the world saying, oh, I want a copy of your book, is hashtags. You can't use hashtags enough. Like I would hashtag everything that is possible that is related to my story or the book. I use them, and I've gotten followers or like readers, potential readers, from those hashtags. So social media is a very, very good tool to use. Friends and families, you know, I bump people's WhatsApp. If you're here and I've reached out to you via WhatsApp, I apologize. It's part of my marketing strategies. Face to face, like I said again, when you meet up with people, be like, yes, I have written a book. You are your first marketer, right? No matter, it doesn't matter how much you pay people, you're the one who has to be the most proud of your work. So you market your work, you know, you market your book to people. And if I haven't marketed my book to you, I am doing it right now, right? And then brick and mortar stores. Unfortunately, COVID has put a lot of restrictions, but still you can call them up, you know, call stores up and be like, oh, I published this book, would you be willing to put my book in your store? And again, you might get a lot of rejections, but you just never know. You might get that one person that will say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give it a try, let me read it. I'll tell you this as well. I actually mailed a copy of my book to Washington Post. There's a session of them that they review, a session of the newspaper that reviews books, and I mailed it to them. I'm like, you just never know. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. I know I will hear back from them, but I just mailed it out to them and say, hey, this is my contact information. If you've enjoyed the book, please reach out to me this way. So again, you're the one who has to speak up. Social influencers, I shy away from social influencers as a indie publisher, only because it can be expensive to have social influencers review your book. They are not going to do it for free. They want to charge you something. But if you have friends, you know, who are social influencers, hey girl, you know, can you put this out there for me? And you know, that way as well, you get those recognitions. Okay, so but Sister, okay, you can speak more to that.
One
To
quick
marketing
thing to
strategies.
add about marketing. Again, with the COVID, it's been difficult for the face-to-face, but you can also leverage things like podcasts, right? So people can resonate with stories. So very popular podcasts, you can tell a story from the book, a chapter of a book, it creates buzz, and then the person will put the link to your book in the podcast, and that can generate revenue. Another one, hopefully now that COVID is, clearing out, is these, small groups. You don't have to make it super fancy to have like a book launch, but you can, take advantage of a hall or a church event, and have a little tent outside, and you can generate traffic. And when we talk about, when you self-publish and you order authors' copies, you actually get to order it at just the cost and sell at whatever amount you want to sell. So you're also able to do a bulk purchase and bulk sales if you have those face-to-face marketing sessions as well.
Yes, thank you, sis. Thank you. All right, so my last slide is what's next, right? Like, okay, I've done all this, I've marketed, I've published this book, and it's out that people know about me. What's next? I say rinse, repeat the process, and get to that next idea that God has laid upon your heart to write about, right? So your first book may not be the perfect book, right? A lot of times we get hung up on doing, at least one of the reasons that I was like, it took me a while to publish my book was, oh, this book is not perfect. Who's going to think about, who's going to read this book? What am I writing here? And I just wanted the story to be so perfect. But then I realized, no. If it's perfect, if it's not perfect, that's okay. I know that I put my best forward. I'm not saying just any book out there, but do your best. But don't get so stuck up on it that you're like, oh my God, no one is going to believe what I've written, or this is not the best. You learn from it, you rinse the process that has worked very well, you repeat it, and then you work on more of your project that you have there. One last thing, multiple editions. So people have asked that, oh, can I have multiple editions? Or why do people have multiple editions of the same novels? You've seen like Chimamanda, when she wrote Americana, there were different book covers. Sometimes it's another way of correcting errors. If you see an error in your book or in your manuscript, you can correct that. You can add a little bit to the story. So that sometimes that's why people do multiple editions. Obviously, you don't have to do multiple editions. It's really, if you feel like, oh, I need to make additional corrections or whatever, then I want to do multiple editions. I want to have multiple covers like collector's items. So people collect certain book covers and certain books for for later resale because it adds value. So that's it on my end. I will now pass it to Sister Oge to do the actual workshop. Thank you so much, you guys, for listening to me. I appreciate the opportunity, EPR.
Thank you, Sister Latunde.
Say anything about this, Latunde? Did you want to say anything about this?
Yes. Oh, thank you. I forgot about that. Okay, so when I was talking about the difference between book publishing through traditional versus self indie publishers or like the hybrid. So this is a chart that I said I was going to talk about later, and it gives you, and we're going to share the link on the chart. Please feel free to copy and save it and go to this PDF file, because it will show you who the big 5 houses are, what their process is, how you can publish, well, not really publish with them, but like what it takes, the money process and all that. Please, again, definitely save this because it's very, very, very helpful. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Latunde. I really appreciate the way you went through those 7 steps, practical steps for writing. So now we're going to get our hands dirty, right? Actually practicing some of the things that we've learned today. So I would encourage you to get a whiteboard or notebook. I already did my draft outline. I'll show you what it looks like, because I'm a big whiteboarder, but you can just have a simple notebook, and I'll let you know what we're doing. So basically we're gonna actually start the process of creating our outline. That book idea, again, it could be a white notebook or your whiteboard, right? That book idea that you've always had, that God has put in your heart. So how do we even begin the steps of building it out, right? So right here we have front, back, and then the content. So first, I'm going to ask you to write out the title. Now, Sister Latunde said that it doesn't have to be something perfect, right? But you've already had the idea of what you have in mind. I know my current project, I just felt it in my heart that I should write about grace. Okay, I'm like, grace, because that was the theme that was going on and on again. I'm like, grace for greatness. So you're going to write a couple things, right? I said the grace for greatness. you know, graced for greatness. Grace and greatness. And I'll let you go and think about different ways or different titles that will be catchy, because again, you want catchy titles. I was reading something and some people even have very, very shocking titles that make you like, I'm reading a book now, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know, or they'll say how I learned to survive, you know, out of $1, just something that jumps out of you. So you can be creative with that. But so you write your 3 titles down. Something about titles to keep in mind, you want to research to make sure that that title is not already taken due to copyright issues. Because I really wanted to use graced for greatness, and I did a quick Google search, and I discovered that some guy already wrote about that, so I couldn't use that title. So that's something, when you write down your 3 to 5 titles, just make sure that you're researching them and crossing out the ones that are already taken, and that could lead you to developing even new titles. So I'll give you 1 more minute to write out some potential titles for your book. Again, if you want to kind of have an outline, I know it's really tiny, but right here I have my title, my subtitle, dedication, acknowledgement, and we'll go into all that in a bit. But so the first thing, you're just going to have a title and write down a couple not examples, but a couple potential titles. So we'll go into the subtitle. So for the subtitle, you want a sentence reflecting the key message around that title or the purpose, right, of the book. In my case, I wanted to write, or I'm currently writing, a journey of courage, resilience, and servant leadership. Again, that might change as I'm going through the actual content, but in terms of thus the content shell, or, you know, putting together this outline, I've written now title, Grace for Greatness, subtitle, A Journey of Courage, Resilience, and Servant Leadership. So you'll take a minute to think, okay, if someone reads the title and they don't want to open up the book, you know, the book says 1,000 words, what will they say this book is about when they pick it up and look at the cover? So that's what your subtitle will be about. So let's take a minute.
Can I just say,
yes,
can I say something quickly? This is Sunday. So so if you're writing a fictional novel, a book, a fictional book, sometimes you may not have subtitles. So again, you know, don't get caught up if you're focused on writing a nonfiction. You could, it's always a good idea to have a subtitle, but if you're writing kind of like a, you know, novel or like autobiography, you can have, but just again know that
the genre
subtitle which genre it applies to, right?
Definitely. Thanks for that. Yeah. And so if, to her point, if you're writing a novel, you want to make sure that that title is catching. And you'll spend a lot of time after you develop your outline, after you've written your story, even going back to challenge that title. Like, after I've written, does this title still apply? You know? Okay, so we have covered title, subtitle. The next step is the dedication. So the dedication phase is where you express dedication to God, family members, other key figures, you know, that were instrumental in you writing that book. So now I know you don't have to write the entire dedication, but start to think of some people and pencil it down that you want to write, put in your dedication section. Okay, it could be God, family, public figures. Okay. So the next phase is your foreword. Now, some people have foreword, some people don't. Again, it's a choice, but it's a short introduction by someone who's very influential, someone who's like a mentor, someone who you look up to. And yes, it could, someone asked, could it be dedicated to your audience? Yes, you could also dedicate your book to the audience. I also have the acknowledgement. We skipped that one. So some people are like, what is dedication and acknowledgement? Do I need both? Can I do one or the other? It's up to you, but I had dedication and acknowledgement. So the acknowledgement piece is where you're just recognizing and thanking everyone who made the book possible. But the dedication is really short. It's like sometimes like 3 lines, to God, to my husband, I love you so much, to my kids. And then acknowledgement, you dive a little bit deeper. That's usually almost a page long. So you do that, dedication, acknowledgement, forward, introduction. The introduction was where you introduce concepts of the book. It's like a sneak peek, right? When you're writing, it's like an abstract, like in 2 pages, what is the whole book about? So again, start thinking when you have the title, subtitle, what are the key elements you want to bring to light in that introduction section? I'll give you guys 1 more minute to write that down. And then we'll cover the back of the book. Then we'll spend the last couple minutes on the pricing. Okay. So again, you can also do this after the session due to time constraints. So at the back of the book, you have to also understand that there are elements, right? After you're done writing content, there are all these pieces to get it finalized. So one of the pieces is your appendix. You want to make sure the details are not too overwhelming. The glossary alphabetically lists out terms and definitions. Again, this is if it's a nonfiction. With fiction, I don't think you need to go into all that detail. References, especially nonfiction. If you're quoting people, in my books, I quoted a lot of people like Purpose Driven Life because it was a purpose book. Make sure you're giving credit to the original owners of the quotes. You'll want to have an about the author section, information about you, and then the book description summary. So that at the back of the book, how it just gives you like a little synopsis of what the book is about. Just make sure that you're also putting in time, because for me, I didn't realize how all these tiny little pieces of the book actually took time in the project to complete. So make sure you're also carving out time to think about, okay, what do I want to put at the back? Run that through some of your like friends or people who can serve as mentors during your writing process to see, is it catchy? Because you want to make sure front, back, everything about that cover like hits home the moment someone picks up your book. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions in the chat, and then we'll go over pricing. Okay, this is a question about fiction. So Sister Latunde already answered that. Perfect. Okay, so this is solely based on Amazon when I self-publish the books, and it's just showing you like a breakout of what it looks like from a royalty standpoint. So if you're pricing ebooks, when you get to the pricing section in Amazon, they give you 2 options. You can choose the 35% royalty plan or the 70% royalty plan. That means that's the amount you get for every unit of the book sold. So this is an example of one of the books, my Fate book, that I priced. I chose to price it at $9.99. Again, when you're pricing, you want to say, okay, what are other Fate books being priced relatively in the market, right? If there's a Fate book that is about your, the size of yours, maybe a couple 150 pages, 200 pages, how much are they pricing them? So I've done some market research and I decided to price mine at $9.99. I chose the 70% royalty plan. And so for every unit of the book sold, again, because I'm self-publishing through Amazon, I received $6.97. Now think about that, and this is ebook, meaning not the hard copy, right? So think about that. If I sold 100 copies of sold 1,000 copies of this ebook, there's no printing charges or printing costs involved. It's delivered directly to their device, iOS, iPhone, and they can start reading it on Kindle. There's some other questions coming about acknowledgement and all that. We'll go back to that in a minute once I'm done covering the pricing slides. So this is the other one for hard copies, and I'll show you a workaround. So I realized that hard copies don't really have a lot of royalties in Amazon if it's not priced as high, only because remember when we say, oh, you're self-publishing and you don't have a lot of, after you've done the editing, cover, and all of that, there isn't so much cost. After that is because Amazon pays for every printing cost if you self-publish through Amazon. So for someone orders a book, say from Australia, their factories will print it, ship it to the person, and you just receive your royalty. The downside is that they take a cut, right, of the cost. So in this case, a book is priced at $9.99. You can choose between the 60% or the 40% royalty plan for paperback printed books. But then if you choose a 60%, again, this goes back to your formatting, right? The thicker the book, the heavier the book, the more pages is going to cost them more to print. Colored costs more to print than black and white. So these are things to keep in mind. But for my book, for about almost 200 pages, my faith book, it cost $3.19 to print. So by the time they're taking their cut, I was receiving only $2.80, even though the book was priced at $9.99. Now a workaround, that's why I'm big on like these big events where you can like sell bulk, you can purchase bulk and sell bulk, is that you have the ability to order the books just for at the printing cost. So they're called author's copies. So even though this is set up this way, you say, I don't want folks to go to Amazon and order these books. I want to order them at cost. That's a $3.19. So for every book, I'll only be charged $3.19. That's the paperback book right here. So say 100 books, I just pay $3.19 for those 100 books, right? And then they ship all 100 books to me. I can then have a book signing event or a church event and sell those 100 books at $10, at $15. It doesn't really matter because I have those copies. That way you're able to recover more on those sales than having people go individually to purchase them unit by unit on Amazon, because that's, for me, I found ways around, the lower royalties for hard copies versus ebooks. But then again, the pricing is different based on traditional houses versus self-publishing. It may be different in Barnes and Nobles, but this is just a case study with Amazon. So to summarize, basically, when you're pricing, look at the market. What are other people in this genre with this type of book charging? That would drive your cost. But know that there are other workarounds like big book signing events and other ways that you can recover costs if you go that route. So I think that's all we had from a content standpoint. We'll spend the remaining time answering questions. I know there are a ton of questions, and we could tag team on it, Sister Latin Day, in the chat about the order of the books, right? I'll pass it over to Sister Kemi. I don't know if you want to go through the questions and then.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Wow, I'm like, I don't know about everyone here, but this has been amazing. We're gonna just take a few minutes, just kind of go through the questions that are, out there, and then we'll wrap up. But wow, all right. I'm just downloading, like even having published myself, I've learned so much. So question about, the pros and cons of the two options in Amazon. Question is, what are the pros and cons? Why do they provide two different options? I think Oni had that question. I don't understand why the royalty options, what are the pros and cons of the two options? I'm not sure if you got your answer, Oni. So you just let us know. And then I'll go quickly, I'll go quickly to the next one. Can you print your own copies on Amazon and then sell it? Can you print, this is from PN, can you print your own books and then resell on your own website?
I don't know about your own website, but I know you can print author's copies. They're called author's copies. So you can say, I want 200 copies at that $3.19, right? Even though you're going to price it and sell back at $10 or $15 or more. So that's a flexibility for the author. But if you think about it, why would you put it on your website and then have to ship it to each person,
Right.
pay shipping costs when Amazon covers the shipping and printing, and just gives you a royalty. So I would say you have the ability to print yours, but if you're going to print, just order a bulk batch and then sell them individually to people rather than shipping it again.
What I was going to say to that is, so I also ordered the author's cost from Amazon, and not necessarily. It is on my website, and people can. I have the link on attached to in my website. But if someone reaches out to me and say they want to buy a copy of my book, an autographed copy, I unless it's like I'm doing a discount, then I tell them there's also a shipping cost, because if you're buying from Amazon, unless you have, I give people the option of either going to Amazon to order it directly, and if you have Prime shipping, then you can get it for free. But if you don't have Prime shipping, you probably have to pay an additional cost for the shipping. So I have a base charge. Like if you're in the Maryland area, I have a base charge that I charge for additional shipping. So to answer the person's question, yes, I mean it could be a little cumbersome shipping individually to people, but I added the shipping cost to whoever wants to ship to buy directly from me. And the other thing that I use to kind of encourage people to order from me is that I actually sign the copy for them. Right. So that kind of gives it that added oomph to make buy from me. So yeah, I mean it's a little daunting to having to ship to different people, but you can recover the cost of shipping by placing that on the buyer.
Quick question about the cost of. Are there any specific? Is it better to use USPS, especially in the US or whatever, from a shipping? Are there any secrets there? Because that's been one thing I've been navigating.
That's a great question, sis. So yes, I use UPS, not USPS. Yes. USPS is going through a crisis right now, so we're praying for them. But UPS, I use UPS, and I get the UPS in my neighborhood. My business is registered with them, so I always get 10% discount as well. And always use Media to ship. Media is like the cheapest. I mean, it's still a little costly, but it's the cheapest amount, and I don't expedite. Usually my readers get the book within 2 days. So I tell them Media, and I always ask for discount. Like, I'm a business owner. Do you need my number? Do you need my business information? And you always get 10% discount with the shipping. So that actually helps me. And that on those discounts actually goes towards how much people pay. It's not coming to me as a business person. It helps the readers reduce the cost of shipping for them. So yeah.
Right. Good tip. Thank you. All right. So speaking of shipping, we have another question here around, when you're writing your book, right, should you consider the number of pages as you think about printing costs and all of that? Should that really determine how many pages you actually you end up with?
I can take that first. I did consider, because I'd thought about different formats and different shapes of the book, and I figured what book would fit into like a mailing envelope if I want to do an envelope, not the small one, but the rectangular ones. What will fit? Should I do a square book? So I did take into consideration the shape. Page number, yes and no, because if it's a novel, right, you want to make sure that it's worth their read, that it has enough content. But for sizing, you should definitely keep in mind, would this be good from a mailing standpoint if I size it this way?
And just to add to that, so again, book in the 80s and previously, if you compare it to books now, the font sizes, the size, font size, the design, how the books are written, again, because I wrote a novel, it was so interesting to see the differences. Font sizes are important. A lot of novels, they kind of have small size. You want to consider who's going to be reading your book. You don't want people to be having magnifying glasses and be like, okay, I can't really see. So you want to consider font sizes, and that would also determine how big, again, if you're writing a novel, how big your book comes out to be. So I think for my novel, I had about, I want to say 80 something thousand words in it, and my font sizes came out I want to say 11. 11 size, and I got like 200 and something pages from it. So yeah, writing the novel, I didn't think about like how many pages did I want. I just wanted to write a comprehensive story. And so yeah, and then writing the manuscript determined how, and the way that it was formatted determined how many pages I came up with.
Right. Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Very insightful. What's the process of having your book on a public school's recommended reading list? This is probably for books that kids could use in schools. Do you have any ideas on that?
So do you want me to take that, Sister Okay? Okay. So while my book is not recommended for anyone older younger than 21. I'm thinking about writing children's book. One of the things that I'm going to do is literally call my Department of Education, and say, hey, I have this amazing book that I've written, and I would like this to be on this forum, in the public square. How can I go about this? Like, my point is, don't be afraid to go out and just be like, okay, this is where I want this book. Even if you want it in the library, go to that library and be like, hey, I have written this book. I don't know how to go about this process. I want this book to be in this library. Who do I need to talk with? Who do I need to speak with to ensure that this book gets into the library? And just keep taking it up that ladder until you actually, whatever we put our hearts to, we can accomplish. So you don't have to have the answer now, but start with, I want it to be in the library. I want it to be in Barnes and Nobles. I want it to be in the White House. Okay, who do I need to speak with, right? So you go to White House and say, hey, or you call them and be like, this is what I want to do. How can I accomplish that? That's what I plan to do anyway.
I love the fire in your voice. This goes back to, so we're writing about books, right? But, what I'm grasping from you ladies is it's about vision. It's about, what do you see? I've heard, from you saying, you see your book becoming a movie. You see, hey, I want it to be read and used in the White House. I want it to be, then go for it. And it's about us kind of having a vision. It's not just about writing a book. It's the vision behind it. It's where do you want it to go? What's the purpose behind it? And I love it. I just wanted to make that comment. We're going to take one more question in the interest of time. Do you ladies have any thoughts on grant funding for writing, especially if your story matches a cause?
I can take that one. I know there are a lot of grants out there, for different things. I know when I had started my writing business and, even editing, I reached out to some grant organizations that offer grants. So I would just say it's out there. You just have to do the research, be diligent, follow up on it. And you just never know how it will turn out, it will turn out in your favor. So I would say, yes, there are out there. I don't know any specific ones, but I'm sure with the research and, if there are resources shared after that, we could recommend a couple. I know there was an Amber grant. I remember applying to that, but there are a ton of grants out there, especially that focus on women, causes, and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. I know the audience is like really like, wow, this has been amazing, rich content. Anybody who was even thinking about writing a book, I'm sure you've gained so much insight on, just the things that nobody's gonna just tell you. Just writing a book is not for boys and girls. It's it takes work, it takes research, it takes vision. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming back again and pouring into us. And I have to acknowledge that all this content, this is their intellectual property. They did the research, they pulled it together and everything. And so I just want to acknowledge our speakers today for the amazing job they have done. And thank you, of course, to the team behind the scenes that have been helping to do this. And thanks to our audience. And really, really appreciate you. If you did not join us today, we wouldn't have a session today. I just posted in chat a feedback form. We really want your feedback. We need to, want to hear what your feedback on what has, what you gained from this experience. So please just take a moment to just fill out that form. It's in the chat box. We'll really, really appreciate it. We will, we'll have it here. When we send our follow-up email, we'll also have that available to you. I want to just take a moment to just acknowledge, do we have anybody that's joining us for the very first time? Anybody joining us for the very first time? All right, no new faces. Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. Anybody on YouTube? My YouTube folks, do we have anybody on YouTube that is joining us from the very first time? I'm checking my YouTube chat. Not really. Okay. All right. Again, just want to say thank you to everyone. Very quickly, in the interest of time, we always have, as I mentioned earlier, at the top of the call of the session, I did mention that we do have lots of ways or avenues to empower women, to empower the modern Christian woman. And so next week, and really every single Saturday, we have something going on. Even during the week, if you check our website, eprglobal.com, there's always something for you to learn, to get empowered on and everything. But next week we are continuing our Inspiring Conversation series. I don't know, some of you may have joined the one we had last week. Amazing. This next one is going to be the art of giving back. It's on Instagram Live. So look forward to seeing you there, 12 noon Eastern time. This is our time, our slot, the Women Professional Web Network, just kind of giving you guys, empowering you all to be the best at who God created you to be. And then of course, stay tuned every third Saturday. We do have our webinar, actually it's supposed to be our June monthly webinar that we're gonna have on June, I believe it's June 19th. So we'll have that. We look forward to seeing you all. Reminder, speaking of businesses, I picked up on, hey, your book is your business. Your book is also a business. We talked about multiple streams of income. We talked about us always, all of us having a portfolio. Part of your portfolio is your book. If you're planning to write a book, it's part of it. So we want you to register your business at bit.ly/EPR business directory. So we want you to register, put your information in there as we build our community of business owners so that we can learn from each other, grow from each other, support each other, right? As we grow in this community. And finally, I think it's finally, again, EPR, we're not just where EPR, the EPR platform is so diverse from the standpoint of we're really focused on empowering from a spiritual, personal, mental perspective. And one of the ways that we do this, which is actually our foundation, is prayer. And so I want to invite you all to join us every Monday, 12 a.m. Eastern time, Command the Week. This is where we declare the word of God over ourselves, over our week, shape our week with our words. And then we have on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. BST, and 12 p.m. WAT, where we actually pray over the nations and the body of Christ and stand in the gap as the warriors that God has, as the watchmen that God has called us to be. And of course, we are givers. We do give to a number of causes, the persecuted church. We pray over the persecuted church. We also give through our nonprofit arm, our foundation, KIP Foundation, where we support the pediatric health. And one of our main projects right now is keeping babies alive, buying INCUBE blankets for babies in Nigeria to help fight against infant mortality. So if you're interested to give, we have our giving links here, bit.ly/BRR give. We invite you to participate and be a blessing. Finally, I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure just learning. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to that team, Adebola, Adeshola behind the scenes, helping to make this happen. I just want to wish you an amazing weekend. Go out there and don't forget to write that book. Don't let what you learned today just be wasted. Go ahead and take action on it, and God bless you as you do so. Have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Bye.
Bye.